Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is SCC, and tonight we're going to be looking at some trade plans at the end of the video. What I was thinking, it's actually changed because of some news that's come out. And then, but first, what we're going to go into is the top of position rankings I did a couple of weeks ago, and see how these have changed since the roles have changed, DPPs have been updated, and also there's been a few injuries, and see how that's affected what I'm thinking is going to happen with the top position for the year, because it's important to keep track of what you're thinking, because as we go, our thoughts on players change, and we're in a real important time of the year where we're doing our upgrades and we want to get those right. So I thought it was going to be pretty easy this week, because there was a few choices coming into the start of the last round, but there's been a lot of players that have put themselves ahead, and making the decision on what's going to be right for the team is going to be very interesting. And that's why I think revisiting these top of positions would be good to do. I'd also like to say thanks for everyone who's been watching recently. If you really enjoy the videos and enjoy the content, just give us a subscribe. Obviously, doesn't cost you anything, and it is good because then you'll obviously get my videos come up a bit more, and always good to have extra people tune in and add their comments, because I don't really know exactly what I'm going to do, and it helps talking to other people who might be thinking the same thing, so that I don't think it's something stupid. But I tend to make stupid moves anyway. So getting into top position, so you can see here on the right hand side the change in rank, and here is the first player. So when we first did this, our defender that we thought would be top of line was Sheasel, and this has now changed to none other than Luke Ryan. And I think this could be probably pretty easy to tell. I think that I thought that Fremantle would change up their gameplay, but they're not. He's just monopolizing those kick outs. So it's like no one else who really takes them. Clark a little bit, but really no one else. He's really being freed up in their back line, and they're winning games. So it just doesn't seem to change. And I think that Ryan's going to continue to profit off that. He's kind of got the freedom to do what he wants. He gets really good efficiency numbers because of a lot of his kicks are long kicks. They're not like rush kicks and stuff like that, which makes it a little bit easier for him to get that efficiency in. And I just think he's going to be number one, and one that's going to be an interesting target probably for this week. Next we have Dacos. So Dacos hasn't changed. I think he's gotten better, but I think Ryan pips him for number one. Not much has really changed there. In third is Sheasel. So Sheasel has come down from the number one spot, and this is mainly because he's being thrown around and rolls a little bit. Now I think there's every chance that Clarko just goes back to what he was doing before with Sheasel and letting him run off the back line, but you never know. We can get to the end of the season and he could be, North could be in the same position they are now, and they might just go, let's get some guys running off the back line, getting a bit of ball in their hand, like they've done with McKercher so far. And let's throw Sheasel into the midfield or even up forward and try and get him doing something down there for us. Into fourth, so this has changed as well. So this is Houston. So Houston has been pretty good, pretty solid as well. Like his lowest score I think was last week, which is a 93. Porter being just putting everything through him, and it doesn't look like changing. And I just don't see him really slowing down. He's not really having those real floor games. He's seemingly keeping around that 90 to 100, floor, and then up from there, he's getting to his 130, 140s when he can. Mostly 120s, but I reckon that he's probably solid for 4. In the fifth position is Martin, so Nick Martin. So I think like when I first made these rankings, maybe we weren't too sure about Martin, his role, whether it was solid. It looks like Essendon are sticking with him there, and he's getting more and more comfortable in the position, and he's scoring really well from there. The problem is he is being thrown forward a little bit every now and then, and there's a worry that this could just change altogether, especially when they get players back. Like, does Ridley coming back affect them? Does other players, is he the one that's easier to move than like a Redmond or something like that? That's what it seems like. So, but at the moment, I think he's probably number 5 into 6. So, I mean, the rankings help you, but into 6, Stewart, Whitfield, and Young at 6, 7, and 8. So, Stewart, I think he's being affected by Holmes, and I think it was being more clear, I would say, since the past few rounds, since he got injured. They're trying to put more ball through. Holmes and Stewart's not having to run as much. He's not looking for that free ball as much. He's still getting his cutouts and his kickouts, but I don't think like he's pushing from when he kicks a long ball. He's not really trying to spread as much. I think he's leaving that more to guys like Guthrie and Holmes to do, and he's just kind of sitting back and surveying. Or he could still score really, really well. Like he still went 100, but like he was on 80 at the half and then slowed to 107. So, and I think that's the issue that Holmes kind of puts on him, is the fact that a lot of the delivery goes through Holmes instead. Whitfield slid down one spot. Reason being, he's just wasting the ball. His wastage is his big problem. He can be tagged from the back line, which a lot of these other players I don't think can. I mean, Houston, Martin, maybe, but Martin just seems to be one that teams are pretty happy to just let do what he wants anyway. And Ryan's, he gets cut off marks, he gets kickouts. I know Whitfield does get kickouts, but his usage really hurts him. So that is why he's down 1. And then Young. So it's only Young, no McGovern. I've dropped McGovern from this. Young has shown some good form, and I think he'll continue to have that form going forward. Now, I've just realised that this is not right because this isn't new. Oh, no, it is new. Sorry. Don't worry about me. The new player is Dale. So Bailey Dale has come in as the new player. And the reason he's not higher, because I think he could go to like probably 6, if not higher, is because Bevo's his coach. And I don't want to touch him because of that, because I just feel like Bevo could, at the drop of the hat, go, all right, let's put Richards back there and let's do Dale forward. And I just think it's so risky. I just haven't wanted to touch any Bulldogs players except Bont. At least I know what Bont, he's playing middle and he's just a gun. Even then, Bont gets thrown forward. I'm not going to mind actually playing English as well when the time comes, just because he is so dangerous forward. Like, he seems to just kick goals. But guys like Dale, I just feel like they could go from scoring 131 week to 40 the next because of the role. Whereas guys like English and Bont will probably go 140 to like 80. 90. And I think that's the difference with why I don't really want to touch Dale. But I'll probably be wrong. Bevo will play him there all year, but I'm just not willing to take the risk. After that, it is Yo. So Yo's fallen back. I would have put him higher until this week. I think this week has shown that the injury issues with him are real. And he's going to miss games because he's going to miss the next 2 at least. If he re-injures the groin again, who knows how many more. And really, this could be a lot lower. The only reason I'm putting him here is because his form has shown that he's really good. And I don't want to down. The injury is one thing, and we can hope that it's only going to be that. But I don't want to see that happen again, because I think he'll slide a lot. Then after that's NWM down 1. I think his role's got better because Sinclair's moved midfield, but I think these players above him have just gotten better as well. And I probably overrated NWM probably a little bit. McGrath's come up, so he's come up 5 spots. Essendon have a lot of guys who can score off the back line, and McGrath's been one that has been getting kickouts as well. The only reason he's not high is he does tend to have floor games more than any of the other players. Whether that's due to Essendon moving him around a bit. He's kind of like a Mr. Fix-It probably in their midfield / backline. And that's the reason he's no higher than he is. McGovern. So this is one that I traded in, which I wish I didn't. But like Yo, I guess, is injured now. So whether or not this is bad, we'll see. But yeah, McGovern, problem with McGovern, if he's not getting intercept marks, his scoring doesn't go that high, 120, 130s. He's good. He gets intercept marks. He gets kickouts, but he's not looking for uncontested ball. As soon as the ball gets out of his area, he's like, all right, let the young guys run it out. I'm happy to go and set up behind the back line again. And that's probably the difference between like him and Ryan. Ryan will, run a mark and look for the uncontested mark. And probably a lot of these guys up here, whereas McGovern's just like, I'm too old for that now, and I am happy to do the cutoff mark, but and kick out. But other than that, I will sit behind the back in the back line and control it from here, which is great for his team, not great for Supercoach. But he's still going like 100, so can't complain too much. Sinclair, I think, could be higher. He has played the midfield role a little bit now and scored quite well. My only issue is one of those big scores against North, who's not really the best judge for. But if Steele is struggling a little bit, maybe Sinclair takes a bit of that on. So I have put him still at 14. And then 15, so Sicily's moved down. Sicily scored well on the weekend, but he's got a shoulder issue, and I wouldn't want to touch that. Because I'm pretty sure he dislocated it, and who knows, he dislocates it again and then he just misses time, and you got 100 on the weekend, but he could get 40 or 30 now after that. So I'm gonna leave that. Blakey, I think he's just dropped off a little bit. Same with Clark. They're kind of those middle range guys that you don't really want to touch. It's like really the guys down here all have potential to score really well, but not the consistency. I'd say May's the most consistent. And probably could be put a little bit higher. Him and Power should actually be news on this. New. Yes, you get to see the spreadsheet in action. Yeah, they could probably be higher. But at the same time, I think that it's probably not people we're really going to look at anyway, but that's where I would rank them if you were going to pick them. Maybe for draft, that's probably better to look at. Moving into the midfield, so let's have a look at the top five, sorry. So the 5 are now Merritt, I think, has stayed the same, although he's getting a bit of forward time, so that's a bit annoying. I think Bont has shown really that he's coming back now, and I think that he'll overtake Butters in the end. I think that Butters can be really reckless with the ball, which is going to affect his scoring. And with Rosie out now, it'll be interesting to see if he gets tagged a bit more, time put into Butters. But Bontempelli looked, after last game, looked like he was really back, and if he doesn't get a heap of forward line time, he's probably going to be very good. And he loves playing Richmond, and Richmond have been really bad against mids, so he's a really good captain option this week. And they need to make a statement as well, the Dogs. The wrong, I've put him up 2 spots. He's just looked really good, really consistent. Doesn't look like he's got, many injury niggles at the moment. And he's just the first guy to the ball in that Fremantle midfield. So putting him up 2 spots. So Green is next. Gone down 1 spot, mostly because of injury. He has been dropping a sneaker every now and then as well, even without injury. But I still think he's one of the better options we have. And then from here is where it gets kind of interesting, because there's been some large rank changes, probably because I underrated these players more than anything in the last rating. So we've got Rao. He's come up from 10th to 6th. And I think this could have been higher if it wasn't for the last game. The last game really showed where Rao, if you put some time into Rao and really try to lock him down and not let him get easy ball out and put some pressure into him, he can put out a 60. But I still think he's a really good pick. But I think that's what limits him from going to where Merritt, Butters, Bontempelli, and maybe Green sit. Sarong sit. Although Butters has from time to time dropped stinkers, he hasn't done it this year yet. So, that's the only reason Rao's there. I think that he could be probably number 2, number 3, even number 1. But at the moment, that's my personal opinion on Rao. He hasn't done it for a year yet. Haven't seen it, so even 6 feels a little high. Dunkley's come up 13 spots. I was looking at his scoring, and he's actually been really good without being like amazing. And I think that's the thing that kind of blinds us in Supercoach a bit. Like, we got guys like, Butters and Green and Rao and Sarong and Merritt. Well, Merritt hasn't really yet either put like up 150s or 160s in a week, and then they just drop, go back to the lower 110s. Whereas Dunkley's been quite consistent. He's averaging 116.9, I think. And they're coming into a really good run of games. They've got the early bye, which, not the best thing because you can get him after the bye, but at least, if you've got a heap in round 14, it could be an easy way to get one player in on that round 12 bye to help you out with that. But Dunkley showed on the weekend what he can do, what we've seen him do a lot, and that's the reason he's gone up to 7. Walsh, I left at A. I reckon this is probably lower, but I just can't put him lower because Neil, a little bit older, but he's kind of the same as Dunkley. He's actually averaging 0.1 point more than Dunkley. He can just have really, really big gains where he could go like 80 and a half and then do nothing in the second half. And it's happened a few times, especially in the past couple years. And that's the only reason he is lower than Walsh and lower than Dunkley. Walsh still has the back issues. I can't put him high. His points since his first game have actually been dropping off. So something else that we need to watch with him. And then Oliver, I've put up 5. I don't feel great about it, but I think that we're starting to see the Oliver of old come back. And I'm really on the fences to him this week, but we'll discuss that in the trades coming up. Now, down 6 spots is Steele. So, realistically, should I put Steele lower? Probably. He's running around with his knee in a heavy taping. But he still scored well against North, and I know it's North, but yeah, I mean, that's something, isn't it? I'd say personally, I'm not going to touch Steele because I've had it years before, and it's just not worth it. But just because he's got taping on his knee, it could come good at some point, and then he could go back to his 120, 130s, and you'll be laughing. And, while he's still dropping 100s, it's probably fine, but I'm just scared that a 60's coming or a 70's coming, and I just don't want to be there when that happens, or even a 50. After that, it is Took. So Took, I think, consistency there, just it's been a bit hard for him. He's not the number 1 mid. He's not even the number 2 mid for Gold Coast now, I wouldn't say. And he's kind of that guy who sits back and puts a lot of pressure on for tackles, but he's not the one getting the main distributor role. But what I love about Took is he's consistent and he always puts in effort. He's always running really hard from contest to contest, and that is why I rate him so highly, and that's why I traded him last week over Anderson. After that's Petrarca. Look, Petrarca, I think he can be like really good, like top 6 good, but when he's really bad, he's like lower 20 of this table, and that's why I've put him in at 13 for the whole year, because he's going to have the really bad and he's going to have the really good, and it's just going to average out. And if you can jump on, when he does turn it around and go really good, then that's great. But if you don't, then and if he doesn't turn it around, especially because we thought he would be better without Oliver, just not really worth it. And then we can probably just show all of these now, because all right, so Dawson up 7. Only thing that's been bad for hurting for him really is his usage, which we've seen come good. Now he's only averaging 99, so this is probably overrating. But his last 3 is like 129, and I think it's going to be somewhere in between there, like 115, which is good. And I just like Dawson, so I think at some point, and the Crows have got to, after this week, it's an easy run. And I think Dawson's going to take advantage of that. Laird probably could be higher than Dawson, going down one spot. Probably higher. Because his average is a lot better and he seemingly more consistent because he can just get a lot of the ball, even if it's not working for him on the day. But I'm still going to sit him here. Then we have Goulden go down. The usage just hasn't been great. And he has struggled a little bit, although he's been scoring all right still. Rosie, injury issues. That's the only reason he's lower than what I'd probably put him above Steele. But the hammy's an issue, and yeah, sounds like they're overplaying him even when he is injured. Kelly is new, Josh Kelly. Only reason he wasn't on the last one was because he's so injury prone, but he's been scoring. I pretty much went looking at a 3 or 4 round average. Who's been scoring well enough that I can't really say no to. I think his 3 rounds like 120, and he's here because, you know, injury prone pretty much. And that's the same with Parrish. Parrish has gone down even though the last 2 weeks have been really good. Keeping in mind, one of those was against West Coast and one of them was against Collingwood, which he always plays well in the Anzac game. And it's just the same thing, injury. You know, if you take those 2 games out, it's like an average of 80 or lower this year. So although from what I watched, he was really, really good and he looked really, really fit, I'm still, putting him below what I have listed above. Brayshaw, just the guy whose game seems to not replicate to Supercoach, but consistently will go 90s by the looks. Anderson, so he's dropped a bit. Just not the consistency of Tuke and not the... I mean, he does have the ceiling of Rao, but I feel like it's one game and then you get the bad games. He actually played well in a loss on the weekend, so that was actually quite... they got absolutely destroyed by Brisbane, but he was still about able to go 100, which I thought was good. Shows a bit of a change in his game, but I'd want to see it a bit more before I considered him, I think. Because a lot of people got hurt by Anderson last year after he had those 2 big games. Cripps, I was thinking about Cripps last week, and then I'm glad I didn't go him 65, and that's just the problem with Cripps, isn't it? Sometimes he can put in an absolute stinker. McCluggage, I mean, let's talk about stinkers. They can happen to all players. We're just wanting to look at players and go who can consistently get, you know, if their floor is a 90, that's a lot better than a floor of like 60. And that's what Cripps is compared to, say, you know, at the moment, a Laird or a Took, or even really Dawson's is like 80, but his ceiling's like probably a lot higher than Cripps's is. McCluggage, I think it was pretty harsh. He's actually averaging like 110, which is really good. And I just rate him over LDU, who's also gone up 1. But just the effort's not there or something. Warner has gone down 1, and I think this is actually fine because Warner's been playing really, really well, and he's still only averaging like low 100s. So, you know, if he's playing really well and that's what he's doing, then I think it's pretty clear that he won't be higher than what I've listed him. Then we got Saligo, Treloar, who are new. I mean, Saligo could go really, really, really well and be like a nice value pick and go like top 12, but I don't think he's going to get enough midfield chance overall. And also, I don't think he's going to go 140 every week. And then the last 4 are like, your choice, but I think Treloar, Hewitt, and Dangerfield, we all know about them. And Libber's like the bottom because he's indefinitely out with concussion. I think he could be forced to retire, which is sad. Hopefully not, but it is sad. All right, rucks. And the rucks are a bit more interesting. So we got Gawn and English. English has gone up 1 spot. Jerry. So I think Jerry has been very underrated. And I think I rate him over Grundy just because Grundy also can drop really bad games, whereas Jerry's been consistently around the hundreds. Although Grundy's in a better team, so these 2 are probably interchangeable. But that's where I place them. Marshall could be lower than what he is ranked. He's averaged 100 so far this year, and maybe I'm just putting him up here because I think he'll bounce back and, you know, over the rest of the season he'll go all right. But Witts, Nank, and even Meek are nearly higher than him. Mick potentially could be a hold if he gets like a really good run. And, you know, he had 43 hit outs on the weekend and a lot of them in the last quarter were to advantage, and he just wasn't getting points, and that's just because of the way the game was. But Meek has the potential. He was on 90 at the half, so if he could keep that momentum going one week, it would be really, really good for him. I mean, the rest of these are kind of like you wouldn't really touch. Darcy, you could closer to the end of the year. If he goes on like runs of 140, he's got 180. He can do 180, Darcy. So you definitely could go him. And then possible R cover, because none of these guys are going to pick as a R3 unless we've got heaps of money at the end. Naismith and Sweet. So Sweet is the big one. He's got an illness and he could miss the game. And a lot of people are depending on him for R2. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because they might be pushing an English into their team, or a Jerry, or a Grundy back, or even a Marshall if they're really desperate, or even a Meek, who they may have traded out to get Sweet. So that's very interesting. Very happy that I held Meek last week now, because that, it's just worrying. Moving to forwards. So I know a lot of these aren't really relevant for like our classic teams, but for draft there is some relevance to this, so it does cover both bases if you do watch a bit of draft. So we've got Heaney as number one. Landers has gone up one. He's been playing so well and getting backline and getting that run off backline role, delivery role, kick outs role. Everything's going well for him. I just don't know if he can topple Heaney, because Heaney's been playing so well. I've put Rankin up one, just because I like him. I think it's like wrong, but you know what? I think like this down is all interchangeable. I think that Rankin's probably the most likely to keep a role, maybe get an increased midfield role, kick more goals. Moore's in a losing team. He's done really well the past 2 weeks, but I just don't know how that translates to later in the season, where they might be getting flogged by a bit more. Jackson, just been really, I'd say you'd be probably disappointed that he hasn't scored more with Darcy out so much. And Darcy's going to play this week apparently. So yeah, he's number 5. Good DPP cover though, so you wouldn't be mad having him. McKay has gone up. Been kicking a lot of goals and playing really well. Zorko, he's doing being put into the back line a bit, but he gets put forward a lot as well. When he's in the back line, he's like probably like F2, F1, probably F2. He probably plays the role better than Flanders, but it's just not happening all the time. And I think once they get some injured players back, although that they had a lot of injuries in their back line on the weekend, he could go back, back down to being really bad. Then we've got McRae. So McRae, he's been really, he's been playing well considering he's not getting full midfield time or full CBAs, but Bevo's always an issue, but he's going 80. Libber being out now could mean that he goes a lot better than this. He could be, top 3 for forwards if Libber going out means he gets more midfield time. But it probably just means Richards goes in there and Bailey Dale goes really well. So, yeah, can't say too much more about that. And then we have the rest of the forward line, which is Bolton has gone down 9 spots. The floor games have really just come out. He had a 29 on the weekend. You can't have him on field. He has to be a loop. I think that's probably where a lot of these players kind of fit. Come into season 5 was sub. I can't put him in the top 10 if they're going to start him as sub. You just can't. Baker, he probably has the best role out of any of these players, and he still only scored 60. You thought he'd have the keys and be going really well with a contract year, but he struggled to score. Power. They give him a midfield, full midfield role would be great, but they just seem to be like, oh, we got a midfielder we want to try in there. We'll put him back to the forward line. And it's just detrimental to his scoring, and his bloody ceiling is like an 80 at the moment. I don't know why I'm still holding him, and I might not be after this week with what's happened with Sweet, but that is where I'm placing him at 14. And then the guys below are like Cameron, Waterman, Harley Reid. So we could hold on to Harley Reid, Kerno. Like these guys are all good for like Cameron to probably, yeah, Kerno are good for like loops, including Waterman. Caldwell, Myers, and Hill. So I think these guys all have a role where they could score, like midfield role for Caldwell, off the back line for Hill, and like a high half forward for Myers, but none of them are really playing it well enough to continue their scoring at a high rate every week. Adams, I just don't know what his position is in Sydney, so he's going lower. Fisher could be the sub. Sanders ain't getting a game. And then Hawkins has just been playing the worst he's ever played and probably should retire end of year, so that Geelong can move on and get their next key forwards ready to go. But I like that's being pretty harsh to Hawkins. He's been a great at the game for so long, but you know his goal kicking's been pretty bad this year. He hasn't kicked a goal for 4 games, which is like I don't think he's ever done it. And I think that's where you kind of go, let's just hang up the boots before things get really bad. And he's been such a good player, but it's probably time to let that go. So anyway, in saying that, I was going to do trades in this video, but I think I'd like a little bit more time to talk about them, because this dragged on to 30 minutes, which, yeah, I could have probably spoken a bit more. Spoken a bit less, sorry. But, you know, it's good to go into this, good to kind of see what we're doing with these players. And then with this, we can then go on and look at the trades in the next video. So if you did enjoy this and you got to the end, really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Please give us a subscribe if you feel like it. If you don't, that's fine. Keep watching the videos. Views are great. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.